Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, friends. Welcome to another exciting video on the Miracle of Islam channel. We are so grateful to have you with us today. In this video, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating and mysterious events in history: the secrets behind the pyramids of Egypt, and the body of Pharaoh that remains intact until today, preserved by the will of Allah. The pyramids of Egypt, which were built about 3,000 years ago, have always intrigued people. They are famous not only for their grand architecture, but also for the many secrets and unanswered questions they hold. These pyramids, towering over the land, have captivated travelers and explorers throughout the ages. Their mysterious construction methods and the stories surrounding them continue to spark curiosity and wonder. But that's not all. These pyramids are connected to something much deeper, something that ties back to the powerful Pharaoh of Egypt, whose body, even after millennia, remains a sign for future generations. His story, as revealed in the Quran, gives us a glimpse into the greatness of Allah's power and the truth of the divine message. Friends, there's a particular secret that ties Pharaoh to the pyramids. It's his embalmed body, which has remained preserved for thousands of years. The preservation of Pharaoh's body is mentioned in the Quran as a sign for mankind, a miraculous sign that proves the truth of Allah's word. Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Yunus 10:92, "So today we will preserve your body, so that you may be a sign for those who come after you." And indeed, many among mankind are heedless of our signs. Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt who defied Allah and claimed to be a god, met his end in the Red Sea. Allah's punishment was swift and final, and yet His mercy manifested in the preservation of Pharaoh's body, not for him, but for us. You see, Pharaoh's body was found in 1838 in the Red Sea, and it remains intact to this very day, a symbol of Allah's might and a reminder of the consequences of arrogance and disbelief. Friends, the most astounding part of this story is that the Quran made a prophecy, one that was fulfilled over 1,000 years later. The Quran had already told us that Pharaoh's body would be preserved as a sign for future generations, and today we have scientific evidence that supports this claim. Modern science has only recently uncovered what the Quran had foretold so many centuries ago. The body of Pharaoh was preserved by a unique process, one that modern scientists have confirmed through their research. Despite spending over 3,100 years in the sea, Pharaoh's body shows no signs of decay. His flesh is still intact, and it continues to grow, year after year. This is a miracle in itself. Many of us have heard about mummies, the preserved bodies of ancient Egyptian kings and queens. But what makes Pharaoh's body so different from the rest? Why is it that after thousands of years, his body still shows signs of life? It all comes down to the embalming process. The ancient Egyptians had a unique method of preserving the dead, which they called mummification. But Pharaoh's body is the only one that has continued to exhibit fresh, growing flesh, year after year, even after all this time. In March each year, rats are released on Pharaoh's body in the museum, and they nibble at the extra flesh. But when the process is completed, his body is dressed again and placed back into its glass casing. This strange phenomenon, Pharaoh's body constantly growing new flesh, has puzzled scientists for years. Why does this happen? How can this body, submerged in the sea for over 3,000 years, still remain fresh and intact? The answer lies in the divine power of Allah, who promised to preserve Pharaoh's body as a sign for future generations. No matter what scientific explanations may arise, It is the divine will that has allowed Pharaoh's body to remain as a living, breathing testimony to Allah's power. In 1838, the body of Pharaoh was discovered in the Red Sea, and after its careful examination, scientists noted the remarkable condition of the body. Pharaoh's body, which sank into the sea in 1235 BCE, was retrieved almost 3,000 years later, still remarkably intact. The body showed no signs of decay, and experts were astounded by the preservation of the skin and flesh. The preservation of Pharaoh's body was not an accident. It was part of a divine plan, as mentioned in the Quran, to serve as a lesson for mankind. Pharaoh, who had once declared himself a god and rejected the truth brought by Prophet Musa, A.S., was punished by being drowned in the sea. Yet, despite his death, Allah ensured that his body would remain for us to witness as a living sign of the truth of Allah's words. In the late 20th century, scientists took a deep interest in studying Pharaoh's body to understand how it was preserved. In 1981, when the mummy began to deteriorate, the Egyptian government sought the help of France to preserve the body and determine the cause of Pharaoh's death. Dr. Maurice Bekele, the head of the team of scientists, found that Pharaoh's body had salt crystals from the sea, confirming that his body had indeed been in the water when he died. The discovery also supported the Quranic account that Pharaoh's body was preserved as a sign for future generations. When Dr. Bekele learned that the Quran had mentioned Pharaoh's body would be preserved for future generations, he was astounded. He reached out to Muslim scholars and scientists who shared with him verses from Surah Yunus 1090-92, which speak about Pharaoh's punishment and the preservation of his body. This discovery led Dr. Bekele to accept Islam, as he was amazed that the Quran had predicted these events, facts that modern science was only discovering at the time. His book, the Bible, the Quran, and science has become famous, spreading the message of Islam and the miraculous nature of the Quran. Friends, now let's talk about the mummification process. Ancient Egyptians were masters of embalming, and they had a unique process for preserving the bodies of their kings and elites. This process involved removing the internal organs, especially the brain, which was taken out through the nose. The body was then coated with a special salt called natron, which helped dry it out and prevent decay. The body would then be wrapped in linen and stored for a period of 40 days. After that, it was filled with herbs, resin, and other materials to ensure it stayed preserved for centuries. The heart, however, was left inside the body because the Egyptians believed it to be the seat of the soul. They saw it as sacred. While most mummies eventually decay and deteriorate over time, Pharaoh's body defies all logic and explanation. After thousands of years, Pharaoh's body continues to grow fresh flesh. This is not a natural occurrence. It is a divine miracle. Allah promised to preserve Pharaoh's body, and his promise was fulfilled. The body of Pharaoh is a symbol of Allah's justice and mercy, a sign for those who deny the truth, and a lesson for all of us. Many scholars have debated the identity of the Pharaoh mentioned in the Quran. Some believe it was Ramses II, while others suggest it was his son, Merneptah, or even his successor, Amenemhat III. However, the truth is not as important as the lesson we learn from the story of Pharaoh, regardless of his name, represents arrogance, tyranny, and defiance against the truth. His body, preserved for over 3,000 years, serves as a warning to those who reject Allah's commands and claim divinity for themselves. Friends, this was the incredible story of Pharaoh's body, as told by the Quran. It is a testament to the greatness of Allah and the truth of His words. The preservation of Pharaoh's body is a living miracle that proves the divine nature of the Quran. It is a sign for us to reflect upon and learn from. Before we end, I want to remind you once again to subscribe to the Miracle of Islam channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to press the bell icon so that you can receive notifications of our future Islamic and informative videos. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and may Allah guide us all on the straight path. Fi amanillah.